All right, everybody. Episode 6 of Loki has come and left us. So with that, Loki has concluded. Let me remind you guys that there will be spoilers in the series and the MCU at large. So if you have not already finished Loki, go ahead, thumbs up the video, subscribe, add it to your watch later playlist, and come back after you finish the Loki series. You have been warned. We are not IGN here. We warn you. So with that out of the way, that's the only warning you're going to get. So here we go. Last time when we finished the WandaVision, Jessica and I did a buy-sell hold for all the spec books involving that. So we talked about, first Mephisto, is it still a buy or a sell or a hold, So this time I thought it would be fun to do ranking Loki keys. Now, Loki keys are not exactly my specialty, but I did watch all 6 episodes of Loki yesterday, so I'm going to take a shot at this. I won't pretend to know every single thing about every single character you guys saw. I'm not one of those kind of outlets. I just like the characters and the stories. So here we go. Another disclaimer real quick is that I am basing these not off monetary value, but like the longevity of the book and where its role is in the MCU today following the fallout of the Loki series. So as you guys will see with number 5, Avengers 10, first appearance of Immortus. So I'm pretty sure everybody believes he is the one who is left, or whatever the bullcrap name they gave him was. I don't think he was ever actually named. But here you go. He appeared in the Loki finale, which is why we gave the big spoiler disclaimer at the start of the episode. However, this scores at number 5 due to Immortus' death. Despite the variance in the multiverse timeline, I do not see him being a big player in the MCU. He said, I am most scared of me. There are variants of us, and if you know how the Immortus character works in the MCU, then yeah, there are a lot of, I guess, variants of this guy lurking all around the Marvel comic universe. And we'll get into some of those later on. But it's still a pretty darn big key, being Avengers number 10 and being the first appearance of Immortus. He is... it's not really a spec book because he showed up in the show, and now it kind of depends whether you think he's going to come back or if they're just done with this character and they're going to move on to other iterations of him. Whether you think this book still has legs or not, I think it's probably hit its ceiling. Unless there's just some renaissance for Avengers books in general, I don't really think it's going to get any traction that will just push it up past this initial week. It's kind of bittersweet that his character makes an appearance and then dies in the same one. So you're kind of like, okay, sweet, he's on the screen, but he's also dead for the foreseeable future. Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, he's dead for the foreseeable future, so unless you just really believe in your heart of hearts they're going to bring this version of the character back, I think this book has, unfortunately, popped and hit its ceiling all in the same episode. So I don't really see any more reason to dwell onto this. We're just going to go on to number 4, and that's Thor 372, first appearance of the Time Variance Authority. Now, another disclaimer is I don't own any of the books in this series, so my fact checking is literally just kind of what Google tells me. But I have seen this cover a good bit on auctions and people pushing this book as the first appearance of the Time Variant. The only reason I say that is because I've seen people lump 371 in for other first appearances, I guess. So just keep in mind, maybe you get these in like a package deal, because I have seen some of them being sold as like a bundle. So if you're going to go for 372, maybe be on the lookout for 371 as well. So the Time Variance Authority is just a really cool behind-the-scenes organization. There was a lot of talk of burning them to the ground in the show, so I did not really know where they were going to stand after Loki concluded. But as we've seen, and as we can guess, there are other Time Variance Authorities, which is a really interesting concept, other Time Variance Authorities and other timelines, and how would they interact. But that ain't this video. That ain't this video. So yeah, they debuted very early in Loki, and they appeared basically in every episode of the series. And now we've seen with the branching timelines that they will probably play a huge impact, if nothing else, in Loki Season 2, but I assume they could appear as early as Doctor Strange 2, and maybe even in the Ant-Man show, and who knows, they could really pop up anywhere, and we wouldn't even know it, because these guys just kind of pop in. So I think this book still has plenty of legs, and you can still get this book really cheap, like $15 or $20 on eBay. So I think it's a good minor key to have. I don't think there's any like major first appearances. I think this guy is Justice Peace, but yeah, not a bad little bundle of books to get, relatively inexpensive compared to a lot of the books on this list. So that's definitely one to keep your eye out. And it's in that weird sweet spot where I'm sure this is still in dollar bins all over the place. So, you know, this is a book I would say get to digging on. As well as our next book, number 3, is Thor number 5 from the 2008 run, the first appearance of Lady Loki. Now, this was a book I had to do some reading on because, personally, this was probably my favorite new character introduced. And this show did introduce a lot of good new characters, but there was just something about Lady Loki. I just really enjoyed her character. So Lady Loki debuts very early, episode 1, in a disguise, and I believe she's revealed at the end of episode 2, I think. And then one of the most important actions in all of the MCU, she is the one who killed Immortus, thus splitting all the timelines and leaving us unprotected and blah, 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 was performed by her. It gave me such Star-Lord vibes when he screwed up getting the gauntlet off of Thanos. And again, I thought for sure they were probably going to kill her so Loki could fly, or kill Loki so she could fly, kind of thing. Neither of those really happened. She's still out there. I mean, last we saw her, she put a dagger through Mortis's hot heart, and she's still floating up there. So she does have a temp pad, so she can get out of there. Who knows where she's going to kind of spawn herself at. So I think she still has... I think this book, I don't know its legs to grow necessarily, but I think it still has a good floor on it right now because the characters still exist. And I assume if nothing else, she's going to be back in Season 2 if they choose to not pop her into countless number of MCU movies. That's the thing about a lot of these characters is due to Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, due to the TV, like the Disney Plus shows, I mean, these characters can show up anywhere at a moment's notice. So I think this is definitely a character to look out for. I think this is still a relatively inexpensive book, maybe like $20 or so. Talking raw, of course. So this is definitely another book I would get my hands on if you're a budget key collector. It just is really great. Now, the only thing I don't know is if the Lady Loki they use in this storyline is the same as the one in the show. From what I was reading about this Lady Loki, they seem really different characters. So, keep that in mind. I don't know if this is the same Lady Loki that they use. So that would kind of hinder me rushing out to buy this book. But that's with my limited knowledge of this series. So, just keep that in mind. I'm not sure if it's the same Lady Loki. I don't know if Lady Loki appears several times. I don't know if this Lady Loki was created specifically for the show, because I don't believe they ever explained to us what Lady Loki's Nexus event was. So I don't know if we know everything there is to know about this character, I guess is all I'm saying. And if you do, I mean, feel free to leave a comment down below. Alright, number 2. I went back and forth on this book, where I was going to put it. So I'm sure seeing this, you know what number 1 is going to be. But this is Journey into Mystery 85. This is already one of the biggest keys in Marvel Comics. It's, am I wrong to say it's the 3rd appearance of Thor? But it's also the 1st appearance of Loki. I think it might even be the 1st appearance of Odin. I think there's a lot of other characters like introduced in this book as well. So this book is always going to remain huge as long as Loki and Thor are a big part of the MCU, and as long as Silver Age and 60s collectors are still actively buying on the scene. This book will always hold its value. It's just super significant, super important. So yeah, that's why this had a real claim to number 1. I wasn't sure where Loki would be because I'm pretty sure we saw through the Time Theater that regular Loki has already reached the end of his story, but this new Loki, who knows? Who knows what all they're going to do with Loki as the character now. His series has already been confirmed for a season 2, and that's just within his own TV show. He could still appear in a multitude of movies. Doctor Strange, Fantastic Four, or even Ant-Man 3. If you guys remember, we thought a certain character was going to wait until Ant-Man to be revealed, and that's still technically on the table, and we'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, this is not, sorry budget collectors, this is not in the wheelhouse. Maybe a facsimile or a reprint or something like that, or digital copy, but this is always going to be a great book to invest in as long as Silver Age stuff is hot. I don't see Silver Age shriveling up, especially for major keys. I don't see the Silver Age shriveling up anytime soon, and Loki is not dead. So yeah, I think this book, I don't know where its legs to grow are, but again, it's another book with, I think, a pretty safe floor. It may dip as Loki kind of goes out of the limelight, but if Loki pops up in Thor, God and Thunder, or Love and Thunder, God and Thunder, or any of these other movies, it could keep this book relevant enough while we wait for season 2 of Loki. So I think it's got a good floor to it. So yeah, Journey to Mystery 85. You've probably been able to guess, but number 1 is going to be Avengers number 8, first appearance of Kang the Conqueror. You may disagree. You may still think it's that Journey into Mystery just because of how iconic it is. And this book, while it's always been a hot book, I would not say that Kang... I wouldn't say people ever talk about Kang in the same way they even talk about Doctor Doom. I mean, when you think about Marvel villains, in no particular order, you think Doctor Doom, Green Goblin, Thanos, Galactus, and then somewhere down the road, you'll hit Kang. Because Kang is still a big player in the MCU. He's still a big character in the, in the Marvel comic universe. But when Thanos died, it kind of left a vacuum, and people said, who's going to be the next big baddie? And we knew, well, Galactus would make a great one, Doctor Doom would make a great one, Magneto, who I shouldn't have left off the list a second ago, would all make great ones, but Marvel was still working out getting the rights, and they'll probably be a bigger character. Those will probably play bigger roles in later phases. So in the meantime, people started pointing at Kang. He wasn't owned by Fox or Sony. Marvel had all the rights to him, and with them setting up Young Avengers, we saw an opening for Iron Lad. With them getting Fantastic Four back, there was a chance for the Rom Tut thing, and now we have Immortus at the end of Loki. So with him saying, "I've been called a conqueror. There are versions of me I fear way more," and then when Loki awoke in the new Time Variance Authority, we saw the statue of what is presumed to be Kang. So that's why I think this book probably has the best room to grow. Like, technically, we have not officially seen Kang. So I think this book, let's just say I hope you weren't a late adapter to this book, because it's still hot, it's still expensive. I can only imagine this book when he shows up in Ant-Man, or in Doctor Strange, or X-Men or Fantastic Four, or the Marvels, or wherever he's going to show up. I feel bad for people who are going to try and wait and get this book then. So I think out of all the books on this list, this book probably has the biggest room to grow, because it almost confirms him as the next major player without him making an appearance on screen. It's basically as good as a trailer that sends people running to buy a book. So, yeah, that's why I got to give the number 1 spot to Kang the Conqueror here. Now, as my last little tidbit denotes here, Kang has many first appearances, as we showed with Avengers 10. He also makes a first appearance in Fantastic Four 19. He also makes a first appearance in Young Avengers number 1. Those are just the ones that I know about. So I think it's worth buying a lot of them. Not all of them, but a lot of them, they may all rise because of Kang being in the MCU. It may be one of those things where the tide raises all boats or whatnot. So that's kind of the legs to growth for if you're looking at Avengers 10 going, okay, how does this book grow? It could just be that the tide of Kang raises all of his first appearances. So keep a lookout for all those books. But yeah, I think Kang is probably the biggest. The Avengers 8 is probably the biggest mover, biggest winner from the Loki TV show. Feel free to disagree. You can leave a comment down below if you disagree, if you think it's any other book. I mean, you might think Young Avengers 1 has now the most legs to it. I mean, they're setting up Young Avengers, and that's got Iron Lad in it, and I could see it. That's all I'm saying. You may still think it's Journey into Mystery 85 since Loki's still alive, since Loki's confirmed for Season 2. Yeah, I get it. So just let me know what you guys think. As always, thank you guys for watching. Let me know what books I missed. I'm sure there's plenty of other characters. People said Frog Thor. I didn't see Frog Thor. I heard if you blinked, you might have missed him. I guess I missed him. I did not see Frog Thor. I saw Alligator Thor. Unless they fed Frog Thor to Alligator Thor. I don't know. So that's going to do it for this list. Let me know what you guys think down below. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, or some particular order. It doesn't really matter to me. And I'll see you guys in the next video.